He's also a dealer in these things, so if you need anything like that, he can help you out, or, so, yeah.
This is the smallest one of these made. These are large ones. They're all American made. They last for years and years. This is like 3 pound, and they go 4.5, and then 6 and 12, and then on up. And this one here runs around $98. The rest go up like a 12 pounder, like $240 or something like that. But I've run these for 7 years without changing the belt even.
Just we would sit there for a minute.
What's that?
That's the most common kind, isn't it?
Yeah, don't monkey with any Chinese stuff, because I sold a few when I first started out, and they come back right away, some within a week, and the motors didn't work or something was wrong with them.
Uh-oh, there it goes.
Wash.
Yeah, it's way over here.
Yeah. That's what you do to load them. And one like this, you fill it half full of your stone, and then your grit. There's directions on grit. Here's the grit kit right here for one that size. That'll do one load. And you can get a bigger kit if you want that does many. There's a book in there telling you how to do it.
And so the rocks in the size of a tumbler, would you want them like quarter size, not anything bigger?
Right,
Smaller?
and you want a mixture of sizes when you do a rock.
Okay.
And do it half full, you put your grit in there, then your water up to the top of the rocks, and you run it for like a week, and then you dump everything out. Don't let your grit go down the drain.
No.
Start doing something else. And you wash everything, you clean the rims to get rid of that coarse grit. And the second batch you put in, it calls for ceramic pellets with it, because you've lost some shrinkage with the rocks already, to keep it the same depth on there. And the third deal, you wash it again, really clean it out, get rid of that medium grit, and then you go with your fine grit. You do the same, you can add more ceramic to fill up, to make it half full. And then your last is the polish. It's a weight polish. Make sure it's really clean for that. That's it right there. And there's,
So total number of weeks, is it a week for each grit?
yeah.
Do you want the ceramic in with the really fine powder as well?
No.
No, just the second one?
I use plastic pellets
Okay.
on the last one. It was the ceramic pellets look like.
Okay.
And each batch, they wear down a little bit, you know. But this is just to keep your rocks the right height because of the shrinkage, like I said. And then the last I put this, it kind of, I don't know, makes the powder work better or something, the final. What this
See, Mike?
last is.
The last step is only plastic pellets and the rocks?
And the powder. The powder.
Do you put- so
I
it's
don't
all-
put ceramics in the last one. I put plastic in the last one.
Okay.
Do you put soap into your burnishing with the polish too?
I've never had one. Some people put a little sugar in and different methods and stuff.
Dishwasher soap.
And I've seen people with the bigger tumblers just put the one coarse grit in and run it for like 30 days with that. And it breaks down and it does a pretty fair job on it, you know. But not with a little one like that, I wouldn't recommend it. So. And these come with extra belt and books on how to do all that stuff.
And then these packs come with your starter kit, is that, or do you buy that extra?
Yeah, they'll come with this kit.
It comes with the first
Yeah.
time, okay.
These here, this cost $20, and these are each a pound in here. That will do quite a few of one size.
How do you decide how much grit to put in each time?
It tells on the, right here.
In the direction, it tells you
Yeah.
how many tablespoons or whatever you need.
Yeah. 48 ounces of coarse for one this size, 48 ounces. And
That's
then-
not right, that's too much. That's too much, right?
No, 4.8 ounces, what I mean.
You have a spot on your glasses.
And then the same with the medium, 4.8 ounce on the medium, the same weight. And the same with the third one
Okay, so I know you said you put the ceramic in the second round.
there.
And
Second,
then the third one, what did you say, you don't put ceramic in the front?
I don't put it in the fine, not in this.
So the fine or the polish.
Yeah, that's the polish, yeah.
Okay,
The
Gotta make sure
the
it's
medium and the
clean.
fine, you do
oh, the medium and
If you
the.
the
do any
ceramics too,
other grit in there?
because of
Yeah, okay.
your rocks get smaller, you know, and less.
The coarse grit's gonna take off all the rough stuff off the rocks
Yeah.
the first time around.
Right.
But the main thing is to keep them clean after you dump one out to start the next. Make sure there's none of that other grit down there.
What do you recommend for, after I do the polish, and maybe this is what you were bringing up earlier, they always come out very foggy. They don't come out a really nice, pretty polish, it's very cloudy. Do you, for longer?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
If you start with rather rough rocks, do you do the first step a little longer?
You
Or do
can.
you check and, after a week, check and see if it looks like you maybe should do it longer?
Yeah.
And the grit, when you empty out, which not down your draining out, can you dry that out enough? Okay.
Some people run one grit to
Yeah, that's what I tell
kill the
them.
fine.
But I would recommend one that's smaller than the bigger
Yeah,
one.
yeah, bigger. Then you gotta check it once a week to make sure
Don't,
your water level
don't put the
go
rock
down.
in.
4.5 pounder is
165 or
no, it's not that,
159.
140 or 49.
I'll go with
I think the 12 pounder is 240 now.
the bigger one, that's the bigger one.
Yeah.
Say, Mike, one tip to try, the first, and the coarse grit, after you let it run for a week or a certain amount of time, there's a gas buildup. And so like when you open it, it'll
Right.
hiss out, and if it's leaky, it'll
Right.
the pressure inside that, for whatever
Yeah.
reason, and the rock builds up some gas. And
But don't open it up over your nice floor.
Well, it
Yeah,
won't go
just
like that.
expect it.
It's called the Lago Tumbler. And what this is, it's hard rubber, just like your car tires, and nice round sort of thing like this. And it just sits in a cradle like my two hands. And a small little motor about the size of my fist makes it shake like this. I'm exaggerating it. It shakes very fast. I can't do that. And by shaking it, it causes the rocks inside to swirl. This never spins. Okay, this just sits there and shakes. The advantage of it to me is that an entire load of agates takes 7 days. Each change of grits is 2 teaspoons. So I go through vastly less grit. Downside, by the way, this is a 4-pounder, 4.5 pounds actually, and it's the same kind of thing. You put the rock up to the shoulder and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But of course, much faster, very much quieter. So sometimes, you know, if your spouse objects to in the basement all the time, this sort of thing is just sort of, and I get along fine. I haven't been thrown out of the house recently. So the downside of it, though, and all those rocks out there came out of this very one right here. But the downside is it does a totally horseshit job on the rough, junky, you know, broken rock. So if you're putting together your rock the way Dan Beal used to, which was to put a large piece of quartz into a sock and hit it with a sledgehammer so that it all goes to pieces, don't use one of these. All right? It would take you an eternity to break all those rough edges off. So I do have rotating tumblers like that for the rough stuff at the beginning. The person who really turned me on to this was Val, who runs the rock shop over in Princeton. And not because of what we're talking about here. General, go to the North Shore, find some agates and throw them in a tumbler. But what Val does, and I do, is preforming. So if you're into lapidary and you want to actually cut some cab shapes and then put them on a grinder until they're up to 220 or something like that, then put them in here along with an awful lot of those ceramic pellets, different sizes of them. And you will get finished cabs much faster than you can do cabs any other way. This is a great way to produce cabs, and I do a ton of it. I only do those rocks that you see out there as filler for my cabs. You know? So I do a ton of cabs in these sort of things. So I just thought I'd share that with you. And Val has, if you've ever met him over there, he tends to be a little bit precise, all right? A little bit like really, you know, OC, you know, he's one of these kind of guys. So he's got some detailed instructions here that are down to the gram and, you know, hours and everything like that. I'd be happy to share them with you, but I just thought I'd tell you about this because it is kind of an upgrade if you are interested in doing other things with your rocks with a grinder or saws or something like that.
So do you know what the price of a machine like that is?
I buy them
140 or so, I think, now.
140?
That's something like
They're
that.
Yeah,
comparable to
it's like
the
that.
other one.
I think it's about
Yeah,
140.
they're about the same.
I usually find them used. They don't seem to wear out. In case you actually do this, by the way, just to help you out so you don't face the same 2 weeks of frustration that I did. For some reason, when these are manufactured, they've got a little nub, a little hollow space down in this thing right here. Yeah, and they're impossible to clean, actually. And that'll save, you'll put rough grit in with your fine grit with everything else. So what you do, you buy this product called Blue Gasket from the auto supply place.
Good too.
And you put Blue Gasket down in there, smear it with your extended fingertip, and you'll see it.
Never thought of that.
Yeah. So,
Can I add something on that? A lot of that is technique, and it's not, when you first start it, you'll put too much water in. You need just enough water that the rocks will get wet as they cycle. It's totally different than that. You know, your tendency is to fill it up, but the water, if you put too much water in it, just doesn't work. So you put very little water, very little grit, and then you watch you get the action inside, you watch the rocks move around. If they're not moving around, it's not happening. So, but the tendency is to put too much water in it.
and to tip back at you, if you seem to have that sort of issue, use a lot more hand soap. I put hand soap. Put 3 squirts in. Val insists you put 2. Then it actually.
Oh yeah, I never did that.
Which kind of insult now?
That's good.
Hey, thank you both. It's been great. I think we should all polish something this month, and next month we'll go over the errors we've made. All right, well, that concludes our meeting, unless there's anything else burning.
Can I say?
Sure.
That's about the tumblers.
Yeah.
I've got one on the sale here. I donated to the Rock Club, so everything when it sells, it'll go to the Rock Club. And it's a big vibratory tumbler. It'll hold 40-pound of rock. And the reason I mention it is it's still light, and it's in the back of my pickup. It's a pretty big item. If anybody wants to, when they are interested in getting it or bidding on it, just go outside and take a look at it in the pickup. It's got a 1 horse and a half motor. So it's worth looking at.
So what is it when you bought it new or?
Well, yeah, probably, it'd probably be $700 at least. But it's in good, perfect working order. It's got dust in it.
Is that in the second box?
Yeah, this is 20.
So 90 for that, and then 20 gives you all those.
Yeah.
All right, we have a silent auction tonight. We usually allow about 30 minutes for that. I'll put the timer on somewhere between 28 and 31 minutes. When it goes off, then the auction is over.
You want to bid at least a quarter.
Increments are 25 cents each bid, but they can be more. You can go from $2 to $3 or $5 or $10, whatever, just to prevent going back so often. Most of the things are listed as pretty cheap.